Okay, all right, here we go. I just got to make sure that and you can see the slide, New York JavaSIG, right? javasig.com. Please become a member and follow us. We are the oldest, one of the very oldest Java user groups in the world, and the second largest. We have about 8,000 members, and we've been going for 25 years. We started right after the first release of Java in 1995. And we actually started in September 1995, which means that what's coming up in a couple months, no, next month, is our 25th anniversary. Wow, 25 years, it just goes like that. Anyway, I'll have more to say about that soon. In the meantime, what we like to do at this point in our meeting is find out if there are any newcomers. Has anybody not been to a New York JavaSig meetup before, either in person or virtually? And if so, type your name in the chat or yell out if your audio's on. Tell us where you're from.
Hi, this is Vilas Mardum. I had attended, a couple of sessions in New York City, but I was absent for a year or so, and love to come back and join the online meetings.
Cool. And where are you zooming in from right now?
I'm zooming in from New Jersey. I'm
okay.
Monroe Township.
Oh, you're the guy next door. Okay, all right. I'm in New Jersey too. All right. Anybody else? Okay, anyway, if you're not already a member, please visit us on Twitter at NYJavaSIG, and visit our webpage, javasig.com. We also have a YouTube channel, NYJavaSIG, where you can check many of our meetings on video. All righty. I just want to announce that, of course, we have more meetings coming up. For example, later on this month, on Wednesday, August 26th, Cesar Hernandez will be talking about Jakarta EE. That'll be a good meeting. And stay tuned for details about our 25th anniversary meeting. You know that if it's the 25th anniversary, we're going to do something really special. Can't give you any details right now, but stay tuned. Watch our Twitter feed, watch our webpage, watch us on Eventbrite, watch us wherever you can watch us, because the meeting on Wednesday, September 23rd, is going to be really nice. Tonight, or today, or this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are in the world, we're going to be doing Hello World on the Google Cloud platform. The same program, the same application done 5 different ways. And our workshop coordinator, presenter, is the wonderful and world-renowned Ray Tsang. He's a developer advocate for Google, the Google platform, and of course a Java champion. He has more to say to introduce himself when he starts speaking. In the meantime, I want to remind you that tonight's adventure is part of our group's Java How, Java Hands-On Workshop series. So we like to do these workshops as often as we can so that you can get your hands on the keyboard and try out things while the speaker guides you through it. And this is the first big one that we've done since COVID started. We hope to do more in the very near future. It's time for our illustrious speaker, Ray Tsang, to take the floor and talk about Hello World on the Google Cloud platform 5 different ways. Ray, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully I am presenting and everybody can see it. Or no, I'm not quite sure.
I see it.
Okay, good. All right then. So thanks again for everyone for joining this evening. And let's get started. My name is Ray. I'm a developer advocate for Google Cloud. And a couple of things that I like to do. One is to bring some of our technology, whether it's Google technology or open source technology, to developers and developers all over the world. And the second thing I like to do is to actually work with all the developers and learn about your feedback, what you want to learn and how I can best help. Especially if Google Cloud product doesn't work the way that you expect it to. I love to learn about those as well. And I also work on a project called Spring Cloud GCP. That is, if you find Google Cloud interesting, you want to develop new applications or using Spring in GCP, you can find a bunch of adapters that we wrote for Spring Boot. That's really easy to use. And if you have any questions, for this session, feel free to just unmute and ask. And the other thing is, please type in the chat. I have dual screen, so I can actually see what's in the chat messages. So that's good. And after the session, if you want to stay in touch, you can find me on Twitter, which is @Satanism, and you can find a lot of the materials that I'm going to cover today on my website, which is satanism.me. Okay. Now, before I begin, though, just want to set the context of the workshop and all what we're going to be going through. So it is going to be all the basic things on Google Cloud, right? So, getting started with an account, logging in. We're going to learn about how a project is structured within Google Cloud. And then we're going to use a very simple Hello World application. And I'm going to show you, 5 different runtimes where you can run your application, which is pretty cool. And hopefully we'll also get into the details of, when to use what, and the pros and cons, and this is, I think, where I hope that a lot of people can, feel free to ask questions, right? Especially if this is your first time using Google Cloud. If you use Google Cloud already, maybe you're using 1 or 2 products, and this is a good chance to explore others. Now, for my own benefits, though, I kind of want to see, where everybody's at. So if you in the chat, maybe if you can say, hey, I used Google Cloud for how long, that would be nice. Or if you never used it, just say this is new, or I never used Google Cloud before, just so I can get a good gauge of the audience today. So if folks don't mind, yeah, if you're new, just let me know. Yeah. Oh, this is great. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm seeing in the chat. Now I feel like a streamer. I feel like I'm live streaming with reacting to the chats, which is really cool. All right. Cool. Oh, somebody's used GCP 2 years ago. That's cool. Yeah. So I think a lot of people never used it, so that is great. And I hope you get a good chance to play around with this today. Now, what we're going to do today is I don't want you to use your own account. As far as when logging into Google Cloud. Okay. I'm going to provide everyone here a free account that you can just use. Okay. And log in with that. And this is how we're going to do it. So before I get into any details, this is what I need everyone to do. First is please use a Chrome browser. I do prefer we use Chrome if possible, just because I think there might be issues with other browsers that I don't know about, because I only tested everything with Chrome. So I know everything works with Chrome. The other thing is that you do need to initially use a Gmail account, right, with that browser. And go to this website, which is gcpcredits.com javasig-gcp. And then once you log in, it's going to, I'm going to click on this right now myself, but everyone, please go there. This is how you can go and get this account for you to use. Can you please, yeah, so we can also paste this in the chat. There you go. Okay. And once you go there, here, I'm going to log out first. Once you go there, you're going to see a sign in with Google button. And this uses the OAuth to sign in with this particular application. And once you sign in and authorize it with your @Gmail account, you should be able to see welcome so-and-so. You can see my email address. You're welcome to email me or find me on Twitter. That's the best way. And then here you can see the event ID and the event title. But more importantly is here, click here to access your credits. So everyone needs to click on that. This actually does use JavaScript. So, please make sure your browser can work with JavaScript. I know some people turn them off. So for this particular thing, please turn on JavaScript. And then once you click on it, click on that, it's going to show you username and password. And just keep that handy for now, okay? And if you're having any issue, if anyone's having issues seeing their own accounts, please let me know. And for this reason, because this is the first time we're running it this way, we purposely kept this group relatively small so that we can troubleshoot any of the issues. Okay, so for example, if I click on this, I'm going to see my username and password, and everyone will see a different one. Please do not use the one on the screen, on my screen right now. Use the one that's unique to you, okay? Again, if you are having trouble, please raise your hand or speak up or type in the chat, okay? This is the very first step. And if you have this already, then what I would ask people to do is to open an incognito window. That's important. So once you logged into this with this username and password, then open an incognito window, or in this case, in Chrome, it's a guest mode. And in the guest mode, you can go ahead and go to console.cloud.google.com. Okay. Now paste this here as well. In a guest incognito window, open. Actually, it should be HTTPS. Yeah. And then you can use the credentials that you got to log in. Okay. So I'm going to log in with my credentials, and that will drop me into my project. And you may have to accept a few things on the way, like terms of service, and you know, emails and all that. Don't worry about any of that. Well, first of all, terms of service, that's important. Please use this account only for this workshop. And also, if you want to explore more of GCP, do whatever you want. One condition, there's no Bitcoin mining. Please do not mine any Bitcoins, do anything illegal. Just, you know, no mining Bitcoins today, okay? Not with this account, because if you do it, I get into trouble. So please don't do it, okay? And for the email, like if it asks you if you want to receive email, it doesn't really matter. It's, you know, if you're logging with this gcplab.me account, it's not your email anyways, right? So this is here so that you can get started really quickly, okay? I do see my own Google account. Yeah.
We had 2 people join while you were talking, so I put the URL to get the credentials in the chat again.
Yeah.
If you just joined,
okay. Yeah. And then for the logging in, make sure you use an incognito window. Ronak, I'm looking at the chat. You see your own Google account. On clicking on the different user, how do I get the credentials? Did you go to this site, JavaSIG GCP, right? So go here, and then once you log in, so you need to sign in, and you click on the account you want to use, and then you should be able to see this. And then you can click on access your credits, and this will get you the username and password. Okay. All right. This is, by the way, the hardest part of this whole workshop, just to get everyone access to Google Cloud. It's the first step. Okay, so I'm gonna wait a few moments. If you are having trouble and not being able to log in, please let me know and let the chat know. And Ronak, if you resolved it, please just let me know too, just so I know I can move on. Yeah. Okay. Anyone having any issues? Just remember, we log in first to get your account credential. You go to the guest window, and then you log in again with a new credential. Okay. Not that one. Uh-oh, what the? Ronak, I'm not quite sure what you're looking at, but this is the site you're supposed to be on. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it sounds like no one else is having issues, which is great. If you logged in already, here's the one very important part of this whole setup, which is on the top. You may actually see something like select a project. So over here on the top, you might actually see select a project. I'd like you to click on that. And then once you click it, you should be able to see like all the projects. So click on all, and then you should be able to see a project that's unique to you. Okay, so make sure you click on that and select the project. So a Google Cloud project is where you organize everything. You can have many different projects. And whenever that you create like a resource on the cloud, like a virtual machine, or you deploy an application, or as a billing unit associating with a credit card or some payment methods, that is all associated with the project. Okay, your virtual networks, your load balancers, everything that we're going to do today will be associated with the project. So do not create a new project, but go and select an existing one. So again, everyone should have your own project. Your number will be different. Mine is 1002. Yours will be different, but click on that. And that's the second important step here. So once you log in, make sure you select a project. I run these type of workshops all the time for the past 4 or 5 years, especially in in-person conferences. I can tell you, most of the issues that will come in about 30 minutes when something does not work, it is because usually that a project was not selected. Okay, I just know this is going to happen, and that's why I spent extra time here to make sure everyone has a project selected. All right. Okay. Once you select the project, this project is already created for you. You can click on the top left corner here. It's called they call it navigation menu. I call them a hamburger menu. So it looks like a hamburger, right? So click on that, and you can see the side panel going away, or you can open it. And this is where all the Google Cloud products live. There's a lot and lots of them. We're only going to say hello to 5 of them today. Okay. So just so you know, there's a lot. Don't be overwhelmed. They are all there to help you for your different projects. But we're only going to do 5 today. Okay. It only lets me in on my Google account. Yes, Mary. Yeah. Yes. Let me see here. So I'm going to handle a few questions here. Okay. So quick question: how many people here did not get an account assigned to you? If you can just message me in the chat right now, that would be great. Okay, so for example, Ronak and Mary, if you are still having issues with getting an account, let me know, and I can get you an account directly if that's the case. Okay, so Ronak still has issues, that's fine. And anyone else? That's okay. This is why I do it this way. My home has a different layout. Okay, home screen. Oh yeah, the home screen might be a little bit different, but that's okay. You can click on the hamburger menu as well, and just go to the dashboard if you want to. The other thing is make sure you have a project selected. Okay. All right. So how to use the new account? Okay. So Mary and Ronak, So Mary, would you be able to tell me if you are able to get the credential? Did you get your own credential? You got the credential twice now. Okay. So you do have this GCP Lab Me username, right? And Mary, feel free to unmute if you like. Okay, cool. So then you can go to console.cloud.google.com to log in in a guest window. Okay. And Kareem, in your dashboard, you do not see the project. That's fine, but you need to click on the top, right? On the top here, right next to the Google Cloud Platform here, there's a select a project menu, and this is where you can select the project. And you need to go in there, and maybe you can see all projects, and then you should be able to see yours. Okay. All right. So if you're still going to have issues, if you don't have an account, I will get you one. And I think the only person who does not have an account is Ronak. So I'm going to go ahead and get you one right now. 1 second. Okay. Yes, Renek, I will pass you the credential. Give me 1 second. All right. And where are you? There you are. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to find you something to use here. Okay, Ronak, this is, I'm gonna paste you the username and password directly in the chat, only to you. And that should be it. Okay. Yeah, that's just, yeah. So Kareem, this is why I ask people to use a guest window or a incognito window, so that you do not the browser does not confuse the two accounts. That's very important. I don't want anyone to create their own today. This is why. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on. You know, if anyone still have issues, once we take a little break, you know, when we have a breakout room, we can troubleshoot your issue directly. Okay, cool. So now you got this up and running. The other thing I need everyone to do after you select the project is to click on this thing on the top right. This thing right here is called Activate Cloud Shell. Okay, so click on that Activate Cloud Shell icon on the top right. Okay, and what this will do is to ask you to start a Cloud Shell environment. Now the thing is, I already started Cloud Shell before, so you might actually have to click on something like continue. So just continue to do that. So just click on continue, and then it will drop you into a shell. Okay, and this is a Linux shell, and it has all the tools that you need to do all the work today. Okay, so this is Cloud Shell. Okay, and from here, you should have like command line like Java. So we have the Java command line. We got JavaSIG. We even have Maven and many other tools. It may take like you know, maybe up to a minute for this Cloud Shell to provision for you. And this shell is completely free. This is a free shell. So even if you use your own personal account in the future, the shell is completely free. So you can use it for, you know, all the, you know, cloud development if you like. But we're using it just because it has all the tools so that everybody has the same tools you can use. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Now I wonder if anyone else got the 1002 account. That's gonna be interesting. Okay. All right. So once you get into Cloud Shell, just make sure that the name of the project is here, right? Because without this project ID, you are going to have issues later.
Use it.
Started teaching new people PM with their.
Uh-oh, I'm hearing some background noise. I wonder.
No, Ray, this is Vilas. I said you.
Oh, hey, Vilas. Yep.
On the screen. That's why somebody might use it. That's what happens. So you wanna just kind of not show that.
Sorry, I think I'm going to go ahead and mute somebody right now because I'm having a hard time hearing Vilas. 1 sec. Yeah, I think it's Michael. Sorry, Michael, I'm gonna go ahead and mute you. All right, Vilas, sorry, could you repeat your issue?
No, you said somebody may have used 1002 account because you are showing it on the screen. I could see that user ID password up there, and by mistake somebody's going to use it. So I'm
yeah. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Yeah, do not use my account. Everybody, you need to get your own. Yeah.
On a related note, you had 2 people join 2 minutes ago, and I pasted a summary of what we've done so far in the chat. Remember to look at the chat.
Yeah. Okay. Whew. Good. All right. So let's keep going. Vilas, that was a great point. So here's the next site that I'd like everyone to go to. Okay. So I just pasted it in the link. Okay. So this is my site that I put together. It has a lot of different instructions. But the instruction I'm going to look at right now, which is for Cloud Shell. I already walked through some of these steps. So first is select a project. So make sure you have one selected. Second, activate the Cloud Shell. So make sure you have done that. In the Cloud Shell, your home directory is the only persistent directory. What that means is that if you put it, if you download anything outside of the home directory, those might go away because only the home directory is persistent. All the other directories are not. Okay. I'm just gonna keep on going down here because some of them is not relevant for today. But just remember, you can actually open multiple tabs, right? So here in the Cloud Shell, I can have 2 tabs and 3 tabs. This will become handy later, so you can have multiple shell sessions. Okay. We also have a built-in code editor if you want to use it. I don't think we'll need to use it today, so I'm gonna skip over that. You can play with that later. But the most important part is here. You want to set up some default zones and regions. Okay. So every cloud resource that we put into our project will have to live physically somewhere. Okay. So different Google Cloud resources have different type of locality. So for example, a virtual machine, it lives in a physical machine somewhere in a data center. And that data center is only in one physical location, right? So you can specify which data center by specifying a zone. A zone is really just a small part of an entire region. A region is an entire campus of data centers. And in a region, you may have multiple zones. And these zones are different failure domains. There are different availability zones, right? What that means is that, for example, here, the region is US Central 1. In this US Central 1 region, we can have zone A, B, C, D, E, and F, right, for example. And if one of the zones fails, the other zones may still be continue to work. And that's why sometimes when we talk about high availability in the cloud, we talk about multi-zone deployment. That means that we want to provision to multiple zones, or in short, we can call this a regional deployment, right? I'm deploying into a region, but it fails over within the zones. Okay. And so every time we create some kind of resource, we have to say which zone or region to use. Okay. And sometimes it gets annoying, so make sure you set up something that's default. So for today's purposes, we're just going to use all of these default regions and zones, and we're going to default it to US Central 1. Okay. So just go back to the shell and just paste in the defaults, and that's it. Now, these defaults doesn't follow you though. So like if you created a new tab, in the new tab, it doesn't have the default configuration, so you have to set the default configuration again. In your own computer, the default will be persisted, but in the Cloud Shell tab, every tab may have a different default. So every time you open a new tab, you may have to just set a default zone and region again, okay? Any questions so far? So make sure you set up some default zones.
Persist the zone across different tabs, is there a way?
Not within the Cloud Shell, not right now, yeah. Yeah, it gets a little annoying, yeah. But if you do this on your own computer, you can. If you do this on your own computer, you can get the default zone. Yeah.
Ray, can I just chime in for a second and remind everybody that after you're done with this introductory lesson, we're going to put people in breakout rooms while you're not talking, so that they can actually practice and go through the steps.
Yeah. I think for this one, I need everyone to do this right now. Sorry. So okay. For this particular one, we're not doing a breakout. We need everyone to do this right now. Yeah. Just to make sure everyone's doing this. This is the most critical part in order for everything else to work right now. Yeah. So please do it right now, and let me know if you have any trouble. Okay. Okay. Oh, good. All right. Awesome. So I'm going to move on if this is the case, and then I'm going to go through some introductory materials, and then we're going to go into one specific exercise, and then this is where we'll go into the breakouts, okay? So in this website, where I'm going to go is the Hello World. So I'm going to paste this link here as well. So in this page, we have a bunch of different Hello Worlds, and these are the simplest way, the most simple ways that you can run something on Google Cloud, run a Java application specifically in all of these different things. What are these different things? Okay, so this is where I'm gonna go into just a little more details about the different runtime environments that we have. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. Yeah. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different runtime environments. Okay, and you can probably see this kind of goes from the most granular, but then also the most highly abstracted managed offering to the most all-encompassing but required the most management, right? So from the left to right, the most left is the thing that you need to manage the least, okay? And to the right is the thing you have to spend more time managing, okay? However, the abstraction layer is higher. So on the left, it's more highly abstracted, and to the right, it's less abstracted, and you get to use the raw infrastructure, almost the raw VMs and networking. So you have to configure everything, okay? So on the left side, we have cloud functions. That is the highest level of abstraction that we have today on the cloud, which is used writing a function or Lambda, right? So we have a function as a service, and it's called cloud functions. And today that supports Java 11 runtimes, so you can deploy Java 11 applications into it, okay? But this is a very specific API that you have to adhere to, that adheres to the functions, cloud function spec, okay? And it's meant to be, really fast executing, but handling mostly background events, okay? And you can deploy a function with a source file or a jar, and then you can just deploy this into our managed environment. The other thing you're going to notice is the way that we build things, right? So for a function, the billing unit is the amount of time that you executed the functions in total, and the number of times that the function got invoked. Now, if I move a little bit to the right, which is App Engine. So App Engine is a platform as a service. You can literally say, deploy my jar file, right? Talking about Spring Boot application, deploy your jar file, and we will just deploy that into Google infrastructure. We'll give you a load balancer, okay? And we will just set everything up for you with automatic scaling, and you're off to go, even a HTTPS endpoint, okay? And that's it. And that's one of the easiest way to deploy something into the cloud that is fully managed. If you are going to be using containers and you're writing containerized applications, then you can also deploy the containers into 3 different things, okay? You can use Cloud Run, which is again a managed service where you just give us a container image and we will deploy that into the Google infrastructure, and we will also give you the HTTPS endpoint and automatically scale your containers for you without you having to deal with any YAML files or any configuration. You just run a command, we deploy the container for you, and off you go. Okay. So the difference between App Engine and Cloud Run primarily is, one deploys a jar file, the other ones you have to containerize and you deploy the container. Now, for some enterprises, they have a strategy around Kubernetes. So, in some enterprises, they just wanted to use Kubernetes. And we have a managed Kubernetes service called Kubernetes Engine. Basically, what we're going to do later tonight is to just create a Kubernetes cluster. And then again, you can create a container image, deploy into the Kubernetes cluster, and off you go. You don't have to manage the Kubernetes cluster yourself. The control plane and all the configuration of Kubernetes and the availability of Kubernetes is managed by Google Cloud. Okay, so you don't have to go in and physically set up Kubernetes yourself. You don't have to worry about a lot of the intricate details on how to run Kubernetes. Really, it's a managed service. We'll give you a cluster. You just deploy what you need to do. Okay, and finally, if you just want to run something that's like raw, like for example, you want to set up your own database, you want to set up like SAP HANA, you want to run some pretty traditional legacy or traditional like monolithic application that you want to use the full power of the virtual machine. You can do that with Compute Engine, okay? And with Compute Engine, you can deploy anything you want. Okay, so any Linux or Windows processes, you can even run Windows machines if you want to. You can run MS SQL if you need to. You can run whatever you want in this Compute Engine. Just please do not mine any Bitcoins. There's no Bitcoin mining today. Just want to remind you of that, okay? In Compute Engine, you can also run containers, okay?
Hey, Ray, can I ask a question?
Yeah. Go ahead, yes.
What's the difference between CAS and Kubernetes? I mean, I thought, isn't that the same?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. The only thing that's slightly different with Cloud Run is that there is no VM underneath in a fully managed service. So in Kubernetes clusters, in Kubernetes engine, they still use the raw VMs behind the scenes. So you still have virtual machines, and you schedule like the container onto a virtual machine. And if you schedule too many containers, then you are out of capacity in the virtual machine, and then you have to scale out the virtual machines. Okay, and we can do all of that for you behind the scenes, but just remember there's a layer of virtual machines. In Cloud Run, in a fully managed environment, the container is running directly on Google infrastructure in an isolated and secure way. So there's no virtual machine behind the scenes. So the primary difference here is that when you scale out on Cloud Run, you scale out across our data centers directly. When you scale out something on Kubernetes, you're scaling out on the VMs that's supporting the Kubernetes cluster.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, in Cloud Run, there's less tuning knobs. In Kubernetes, you have all these YAML files that you can create. You can configure all the load balancers, right? But in Cloud Run, we give you all the load balancers out of the box. Okay, so remember what I said earlier. The further we move to the right, the more you have to manage yourself. The further on the left, you have to manage less and do less. Okay, so if I were to scroll down even a little bit more. So for example, here we have a scaling characteristics, right? So in Cloud Run, for example, you can scale from 0 to n. You can scale down to 0. And the scaling is the speed of your application startup. In Kubernetes engine, the scaling is your application startup or the amount of time it takes for the virtual machine to start, okay? In functions, App Engine, and Cloud Run, these three things is what we call the serverless offerings. And all of the three serverless offerings can scale down to 0. Okay, Kubernetes engine and compute engine, these are more infrastructure level offerings, and they cannot scale down to 0. Okay, hopefully this helps answer some of these questions. And finally, for load balancing, Cloud Functions, App Engine, and Cloud Run, all the serverless offerings supports HTTP and HTTPS load balancing out of the box, right? So you don't have to set anything up. In Kubernetes, you have to create your own resources like a service or ingress or your own HTTP load balancer. Okay. In Compute Engine, you have to configure even more. Okay, so that's just the level up of details that you may have to go into. Depends on the level of control that you need. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? I think I saw a question. Would App Engine be the closest to deploying a Java build pack Spring Boot app with Pivotal Cloud Foundry? I think it's pretty close, yeah. So we're going to go into the exercise in a second. So in App Engine, you just say gcloud app deploy a jar file, then you're done. You can also deploy from the source code with a plugin, but I think a lot of people just, it's a lot easier with the jar file. Okay, so all right, questions so far? Any other questions before we dive into the details? If not, let's get started. All right, very cool. So I think, we talk about 5 ways, but actually we have 6 ways because in Cloud Shell, you can also run your application. But I want people to get familiarized with Cloud Shell first. And so that's why I added this one exercise. This is not for production use. Just keep this in mind. Cloud Shell is for you to be able to maybe use the development tool for development purposes. It is not for production use, okay? However, we're going to do all the work within Cloud Shell, okay? And so this is what I'm going to do, just show and tell, and then we'll have a breakout session very quickly. So, and this is again to help you orient within Cloud Shell, okay? So in Cloud Shell, what you can do here, I'm going to get rid of the stuff I already tested with. So I'm going to get rid of my stuff. So here we can maybe follow the instructions. I'm going to follow these instructions and show you how to do this, right? So in the Cloud Shell, just make sure you can, clone my repository. It's a very, very simple and straightforward Hello World Spring Boot application. It has one single endpoint, which is / and that's it. And in the shell, you will be able to do a package. So you can just compile and create a jar file, okay? And then after that, it will take a little time because it's going to download all of the dependencies. But you're downloading from the cloud, so if anything, if you happen to have a slow internet like myself, downloading from cloud is much faster. Okay. And once the package is created, you can run the application directly in Cloud Shell if you want to. So you can run the jar, or you can just use the plugin. So I'm going to use the plugin here in the Cloud Shell, right? So I'm running this in the Cloud Shell, and I can run this application. Okay. And once I run the application, it's now listening on a port, right? It's listening on port 8080. And then we can go and use the web preview functionality in the shell, because this is running a VM somewhere. You need to be able to connect to it securely. It is not on the public internet. So we have a very special way for you to connect to this Cloud Shell, which is the web preview, which is here, this icon right here. Okay, and the web preview icon allows you to preview port 8080. So you can click on that, and this will redirect you to the actual application you're running that is in the shell. Okay. Hello. Hi. How are you?
Fine. Great.
Welcome.
How can I change the Java version? Is possible because it's running Java 11, but suppose I want to.
Aha. Yeah. So changing the Java version is in the Cloud Shell, right? In the Cloud Shell, like here. Yeah. So the only way to do it right now is that you have to do an apt-get install. You need to install the Java version directly. However, the Java version might get lost because it's not installed in your home directory. That's the only thing to watch out for. Yeah. So which version are we running right now? Okay, it is 11. Yeah. 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 So if you want to run a different Java version, you have to install it yourself in this Cloud Shell.
But the next time I log in, I need to install the Java version again, or?
Potentially, unless if you try to install it in your home directory, right? So if you're in a home directory, anything that's in your home directory is persisted across the sessions. So, if you want to install a JDK distribution in a subdirectory in your home, then that will remain there forever. However, if you installed it in the user bin directory or anywhere else, those might get removed in the future.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. So I think hopefully everyone is done. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Ray. Yeah, if I can share my screen, I just got into my project here, opened up an account. I'm not sure if what's the next step here I need to go. Yeah. Is this
Okay.
I have that was the WS1013.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So go ahead and go to follow these instructions here. 1 second. Where are you? Go to this URL, and so first of all, click on that shell icon on the top. From the top right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th icon. It looks like a DOS prompt, but it is not a DOS prompt. Not that one.
This one?
Yeah, that one. No. The 2 to the left. 2 to the left. The other left. No, the other left. Left. Yeah. Not right. Yeah.
Okay. This one here.
No.
Okay.
Not that one. Anyways, here, let me share my screen so you can see. How's that? I will share mine.
Okay.
So you can see it. Yeah. And also follow the instruction in the doc. Yeah. So this one on the top. This one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And then I'm assuming that you may have joined a little late. So follow the URL. I pasted in the chat. But for now, and I'm sure you can catch up very quickly. So let's. Anyone else have any other questions before I move on?
I do have a question.
Yes, all right. Go ahead.
Behind the scenes, where is the VM or what is?
Sorry, I'm gonna mute. Start muting a few folks if there are some noises. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead. Can you please repeat your question again?
Sure. So Ray, can you also explain, this is the cloud run. So what is happening behind the scenes? Where is the container being created? Explain that.
In Cloud Run, we're gonna get to Cloud Run later. So if you don't mind, we can keep that later. Would that be okay?
Sure. I thought this is the Cloud Run what we're using, aren't we?
No, this is a Cloud Shell. So the first thing that we did is Cloud Shell. Yeah.
Okay.
This thing right here.
Could you explain what's happening behind the scenes?
In Cloud Shell. So
Yes.
this is a remote machine that is just free for you to use. And it has all the tools that you can use for regular development purposes. And in this shell that is in the cloud, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it.
So did it create a
So what we were
container
able to
for us
do
behind the
was
scenes?
to just run an application here in the shell.
Did it create a container image?
No, nothing. Yeah, we didn't create, right? So in this instruction, we didn't create any container images. It really is just running something in the VM. We just ran something in the Cloud Shell machine. That's it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So that was the first thing. So this is familiarized with the shell itself, right? Because it is in the cloud, but it is like your remote desktop, if you so will. This is a remote working desktop in the shell. You can do whatever you want. But this is not production environment, right? This is not production. But in the same shell, what we're going to do is to deploy something into production-like environment using App Engine. And that is what we're going to do next. So, on the left, on my dock, you can go to App Engine. Okay, so go into there. That's the next step. All right. There's the video. You don't have to watch it because we're going to walk through it anyways. And App Engine is the platform as a service. So what we're going to do is to deploy this jar file into App Engine, and you can see very quickly without doing any infrastructural work, with no need to set up a load balancer yourself. Just deploy the jar file, and the application will be automatically scaled up if you have traffic. It will scale down to 0 when you have no traffic, and it's very, very easy to do. You can skip over the clone and the build because it is exactly the same application, right? So we already done the clone already, so you don't have to repeat. The thing that you do need to do is to deploy the jar file. So for example, when we did maven package in this directory in the Hello World Spring Boot Tomcat directory, okay, when we did the build, we have the jar file, right? So here's the target, and we have the jar file. Okay. With App Engine, you can run any of these self-executable jar files, right? So for example, here you can do java-jar. If you can do that, you can say gcloud app deploy the jar file. So I'm going to say deploy the hello world.jar. And this will, you might be asked a few questions like, hey, do you want to deploy this? And it also asks you to pick a region. If it asks you, just pick a region that you want to use, like US Central 1. And then you say yes to that. And this deployment will just go ahead and take place. What this will do is to deploy the jar file into Google Cloud. And this will actually go into a storage area. And then we will spin up on the Google machines with no containers, just regular Google machines. We will isolate your application in a secure sandbox, and then we'll just start your application. And once it starts, we will also provision a HTTPS URL. You can see here, there's already a HTTPS URL. And from here, once you go to that URL, we will automatically start your application, automatically scale them out, and route the request to the application running in the cloud. There's no infrastructure that you have to manage whatsoever, and that's why we call this the fully managed platform as a service. Okay, and this upload and the deployment does take maybe a few seconds or so, or a few minutes. But once everything's provisioned, then it's ready to go, right? So there we go. So mine's already done. Okay, and there we go. All right, so now I can go ahead and see my application. So if I go to this URL, okay, I can go ahead and see my app. And this first time is going to start my app potentially, so I need to wait for it to start. There's some cold start potentially. That's because we're scaled down to 0. But once it goes up, this is there, and this can just be continuously to be used, okay? Very, very simple and straightforward. In App Engine, you can also set up minimum instances. So for Java applications, maybe you want to have minimum of 2 instances just because you don't want the cold start. And then you can also set up the maximum instances because you don't want to be charged forever, right? Imagine if, you know, sometimes in a small company when, you know, something goes more viral, you know, it's a good thing that you can handle all the viral workload. However, you know, that also means you have to, you know, pay more for all of the instances that you cost to start, right? But that's the trade-off between something that's fully managed versus something that you have a lot of control over, okay? In App Engine, you can also control, you know, the manual scaling. So if you don't want to be scaled automatically, you can also scale manually. So you can tell it, I want to have one instance running all the time and exactly one instance. You don't care about scaling, okay? So you can do that too. And there are different type of instances. So for example, here we have different sizes of the application instance. So by default, it is using a F1 instance. F1 instance is one of the smallest instances. It's a one CPU with 256 megabytes of RAM. Okay, so it's a very small instance. If you have a small microservices, that is an okay instance to use. A bigger instance like F4, this will give you 2 gigabytes of RAM, but still only one vCPU. Okay, and so to
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the F1, F4, these terminologies are common across other cloud infrastructures as well as Azure or AWS, or this is the terminology used by Google?
This app.yaml is only for App Engine. So this is Google specific. However, the application itself, the jar file, it's the same jar file. It's the same application, right? Oh. So this is only for us to determine, okay, you want a bigger instance on App Engine. And also you can specify some environmental variables. Like in Spring Boot, you can specify override, you know, credentials. You can, you know, give it a prod profile or something. You can do all of these things via invars. You can do this in an app.yaml file. So for example, if I want to run a bigger instance here, and I say create a new app.yaml, and I can just paste this in. If you don't use Vi, you can use Nano. Just saying, like if you get stuck in Vi, if you cannot exit, try to use Nano instead. Or if you are like, you know, if you prefer Emacs, you can use Emacs too. You can use whatever editor that you want. Okay. So here I created the app.yaml file, and then now I can deploy the same jar file, but with the YAML file instead. Okay. So this will deploy exactly the same application, but with a different configuration. And I can do that too.
Got it. And the question that I was just trying to get as F1, F4, the terminology, is it similar, or they might use a different terminology for their smallest instance? Instead of calling F1, they might call
for AWS, it's completely different terminology. This is only for us. Yeah.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I should link in this doc all the different instant classes that we have. It differs in sizes. Yeah. Now, somebody asked in the chat, hey, wait a second. So Sarath asked, you know, Ray, mine says uploading 2 files, and you said 1. Any reasons? And now if you look at my screen, I say uploading 0 files. Why is that? This is because App Engine is really intelligent. It knows which file has changed and which ones has not. Okay, so what that means is I didn't change any jar files now, and so I don't need to re-upload the same file, and so I'm uploading 0 files. Okay, the reason why you are uploading 2 files is because it automatically generated a YAML file for me, for you, and that's why you have the jar file and the automatically generated YAML file. If you are to redeploy the app again with a different YAML file, and you didn't change the jar file, then you upload the changed file, which is only 1. In this case, I didn't change any files, but I did because I uploaded app YAML file before, and that's why I'm uploading 0 files. Okay, so imagine if you have a more complicated application that you want to upload, especially if you're using Node or Python, it will actually only upload the file that you changed, which is really, really useful. Okay. Okay. So now you can see that it uploads the new file. And we can deploy multiple versions. One last thing I want to call out before we go into a breakout is the services. So in the left corner, if you open this up, if you go into App Engine, you can see services. Okay. And this is really cool because I'm going to open this up again. Here we have a default service. You can deploy multiple services. But every time you deploy to the same service, you can see the different versions, right? So for example, I deployed my application twice, and so I have multiple versions. If you've done it two times, you have 2 different versions. You can specify the version name if you want to, but here we can see I tried a few times, so I have multiple versions. Okay. Now, what is really cool about App Engine is you can specify and migrate traffic within versions. So in case that you want to, you have V1 and V2, and you want to test out the V2 version beforehand, you can select the version and you can split the traffic between these versions, and you can say, okay, V1 gets 80% and the V2 gets 20%, and that is built in out of the box. You don't have to do anything in App Engine. You can just do this straightforwardly. Okay. And you can route traffic between multiple versions. Like I can do 3 versions as well. And this is another really good way to do blue-green testings or A/B testing or just canary deployments. Okay. Any other questions so far?
That's very interesting, Ray. Quick question. So every time you select multiple versions, it spins up another App Engine, or it's still running on the same App Engine?
It is running App Engine, but if you have 2 versions running, there would just be 2 instances running, right? The whole point is you don't really care who's running it. The whole point is it runs somewhere magically, and you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that is the key. The other thing is you can also go to a specific version if you want to. So like if you have 2 versions, if you go to the regular URL, you're going to get load balance between the 2. However, if you want to try a new version out before you ask everybody else to go there, you can go into a version-specific URL. So here you can see on the top, this is a version-specific URL, and this goes to only that version. Okay, and this URL, which is more generic, this is the one that's be load balanced between multiple versions if you chose to enable traffic split. Okay, let me see if there are other questions here. How can I configure a load balancer, for example, route activity for accounts 1, 2, 3 to instance 1, account 4, 5, 6 to instance 2? You cannot have this fine control of routing in App Engine. The only thing you can do is you can specify session affinity. So you can potentially, when you split the traffic, for example, you can split it by the IP address, cookie, or randomly. Okay, but because you don't manage the infrastructure, you don't have control, a lot of control over which instance is running or not. So you cannot do this fine-grained load balancing based on the account ID. The load balancing is done for you automatically. The session affinity is handled for you automatically. Okay. Cool. Another question in the chat from Ronak. App.yaml file, can we have option to provide default structure? Like when it's dev, give the database connection, UAT. No, there's no default structure. In that case, in the app.yaml file, you would have to create multiple app.yaml files. So this is what people do. You create a app-dev.yaml, and then when you do a deploy, you deploy to the -dev YAML, right? And when you have production settings, you deploy the prod YAML. So you have to split the YAML files out, and you can organize this however you want.
So Ray, how do I know when the multiple versions are running, which version is using which YAML file?
Well, if you have multiple versions, then if you really want to see what YAML is being used, let me see here. If you click on one of them, interesting. The right panel should show up actually. Okay, so that's not useful. Right, so here, if we click into, to the right, because my screen is too small. So if I scroll to the right, here we have config, you can view. Okay, so here you can view the configuration and you can see exactly the config that's being used right here. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. One other things before I move on to the next section is that here's the log. So everything that's in managed platforms, everything that we're going to do going forward, we have centralized logs. So if you output any logs to std out, you're going to be able to see the centralized logging as well. And then you can see the logs separated by the different versions of your application. or even different services. Okay, so if you output anything, you can see the log centrally, and from here you can also do a search. Like, hey, I wonder if there are exceptions. You can search for exceptions. I don't have any exceptions, so that's fine. Okay, we can go into the log stuff in the future, but for the moment, I just want to make sure everyone can deploy to App Engine. Okay.
The URLs, basically the web URLs are very weird.
Are very real?
Weird. It's very difficult to read or understand or to translate to somebody, right?
That's correct. And so that's a great point. And for all of these things, you can also configure a custom domain. So if you want to map this application onto a custom domain, you can, right? So here it's really the name of the project. So it's really like the name of the app and the name of the project. And the project name is really long. That's why it's also long. But most times when people do deploy this onto a production environment, they will replace this name with a real domain name. Like you can buy your own domain name, or your company has your own domain names. You can map it onto here directly. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sam.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
How can I stop the app? I try undeploy, but it doesn't work.
That's right. That's a good one. All right. So I think everyone's coming back, right? Everyone came back. Yeah. So hopefully everyone is able to deploy. If you had trouble, please put in the chat. So maybe we can help you out separately. So there are a few questions, and Hilmar, I think you let's go with yours first. Is how do you actually stop the app? So stopping the app is something like this, right? You can go into the versions. You can, first of all, delete the versions that you don't want. So I can delete them. Now, you cannot actually delete the default. Like you always have to have one. But what you can do is to click on this and yeah, here. Yeah, so like that's really it.
From the shell, it's possible to stop the app from the shell?
There's one potential thing you can do, which is I need to double check how to actually stop it.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is the real issue with one issue with App Engine. I think one thing you cannot delete the default service. That's another thing, right? You cannot delete the default one, and this version is like you always have to one version running. What you can do is to just do like a manual scaling, or just deploy something that you don't really care about and just do nothing there. That's currently the way to do it. The other thing I did not mention is that when you create a new App Engine app, the App Engine is regional, so it's regional and tied to the entire project. So really, what people do is to delete the entire project if you want to stop the entire thing. And the other thing is, if you want to do a multi-regional deployment, like if you want to run the app in US and another app in the EU, you need to create 2 different projects. That is the limitation of App Engine. Okay. And in Cloud Run, we will not have this limitation. So we are going to get into that in a second. Another question from Sarath is coming from AWS. Each application has IAM role, etc. Do you have a similar thing here in GAE? Yes, there actually is. And so we also have IAM. And for each application, you could be associated into an IAM account. And specifically, we call this account a service account. Okay, so I'm just going to show what this is. But just so you know, you can create a service account, and App Engine by default will use this default service account. So any permission is given to this default service account can be used by your application. Okay, and you can create your own service account and associate it with the application. And you can do this across the board for Kubernetes, for Cloud Run as well, and for Cloud Functions, and if I recall correctly, App Engine as well. Okay, so we can give it fine-grained access control per application. If you do create a service account, the other thing that you can do is to give it a different type of roles. Okay, so here, for example, I'm just gonna pick a random one, like that one. You can give it a role, and the role is really a set of permissions. And here's like, if you want your application to be able to use Bigtable, which is a really fast database, and you want it to be read-only, you can give it the role of read-only access. Okay. If you want to learn about IAM, this is actually one of the first thing in my doc. I just didn't get into it. If you go to the first part of this documentation, if you scroll down, you're going to see and learn all about our IAM permissions. Okay. Cool. So for Blue, another question from, let's see here, Marvin. For blue-green deploys, how do you deploy the app without having the last deploy version on? Like, oh yeah. So basically, the question is, how do you actually, when we did the deployment, the newest version actually took over all the traffic. You can actually do this. Let me see here. 1 second. I'm going to do a -- help. If you don't want it to take over the whole traffic, 100% because it's a new app, you don't know if it's going to work or not. What you can do is to say, I think it's called no promote. Yeah, there it is. So you can say do not promote. Okay, so when you deploy a new version, if you don't want it to be used by default, just give it a no promote, and that's going to basically keep the traffic to be 0%, and then you can incrementally increase it. Another thing that you'll notice is that you can actually give it the version name yourself, right? So if you don't give it a version name, we'll use a timestamp for the version name, which is really annoying sometimes, right? So you can, if you want to, you can say version is equal to blue, right? And that will deploy a new version with that version name. And then right, and then I can say no promote. And that's how you can do this. Yeah. Okay. And you can see that you can access this version specifically via its own URL. Okay. Nice. There's so much more in App Engine I wish I have time to go into. We can debug your application live. We can profile your application. You have centralized logging, and there's just so many features here. However, we do need to move on to the next part of our thing, which is Cloud Run. So for Cloud Run, let's go into that section, Cloud Run section. Okay. There are a couple of ways to deploy it. There's the easy way and the way that you learn all the details. The easy way is to click on a button, but probably don't do that right now. But basically, this button is called the Cloud Run button, and you can associate it with your own project. And you can click on the button, and it will just deploy everything to Cloud Run for you automatically. But what we're going to do is to do this manually, and so you can see all the details. Okay, so we're going to use exactly the same application, so you don't have to check out any code. You don't have to rebuild this again. You already have the app. What we do need to do is to be able to build our container. And when we build our container image, we need to push it to a registry. Now, I know a lot of people use Docker Hub. On Google Cloud, we have something called the container registry. Okay, so here's the container registry. And in container registry, you can store the container images that you want to deploy. And every container here is going to be having a special coordinate. It's called gcr.io / your project ID, whatever project that you're using, and the name of the container that you want to use. So that would be how it will work, okay? And that would be the container image URL or the coordinate. But before we can do anything with this container image, we need to go ahead and enable the API. So first I need to enable the container registry API. Everything on Google Cloud is API driven. So even to be able to use the container repositories, I need to enable the API. You will need to do the same thing. And then we're going to go ahead and build the container application. Now, there are just so many ways to build a container. Most tutorials will tell you to use the Docker file. Now, I have a lot of issues with Docker files. That's why I don't use it. It's really error prone. It's complicated. And it's really, really hard to write a good Docker file. I've seen dozens and dozens of Docker files. I cannot say any of them is actually applying all the best practices. It's really, really hard to do. And I don't expect everyone to get it right. What I do recommend is use the tool. And we have many different tools to help you to build a container image without a Docker file. Okay, so my favorite tool so far is called Jib. And Jib is it's a plugin that you can add to Maven or Gradle. And we can containerize any Java applications that you want. So, you can follow the link if you want to see the Jib website and the GitHub. and you can learn all about Jib. What we're going to do is to use Jib in a way that I'm actually not modifying my Maven pom.xml, because in Maven, I can just run any plugin directly with the coordinate, and I can give it the container image I want to build to, and this will run Jib plugin against my my Spring Boot application, and it will just produce the container image and then push it directly to my container registry. Okay. Uh-oh, that was close. Oh yeah, I know why. I copied the whole thing, so I'm gonna copy the whole thing. By the way, there's a little copy button here in case you missed it. If you want to copy the whole block, there you go. Okay, so what did I do? Basically, we grab the project ID so that we can use as environmental variable here, and that is the coordinate for my container image. And Jib will analyze my Maven or Gradle build, and it will automatically apply the best practices and produce the container image, all without a Docker file and also without Docker daemon at all. So that's one of the easiest way to do it. In Spring Boot 2.3 and above, they actually have a built-in mechanisms. So you can learn about the different ways to build your container images. Just for now, just use Jib. But if you want to learn more, you can try out these other mechanisms as well. Okay. So once you have the container image, then we can deploy it into Cloud Run. Now remember, the simplest way to think about the differences between App Engine and Cloud Run is App Engine can deploy the source file or the jar file, and Cloud Run only deploys a container image, right? So that's why we need to create a container image first, and then we can enable the API, and then you can deploy the image this way. So here I have project ID, and I say gcloud run deploy hello world. Now I will explain just a little bit about the parameters here. So first is the region. So we specify default region, so you don't actually have to re-specify it. That's fine. The platform is managed. That means this is a fully managed Cloud Run. That means it runs directly on Google Cloud Infrastructure. We also have Cloud Run for Entos, which is really Cloud Run, the same experience, but on GKE. Okay, so what that means is that you get the same auto-scaling benefits and everything, except that you run it in a Kubernetes cluster that has the Cloud Run platform installed on top of it. Today, we're just going to use the fully managed Cloud Run, which does not use GKE at all. And then you need to tell whether this service can be used by external user with or without authentication. So here we say allow unauthenticated. That just means that anyone can use this URL, and we don't restrict who can access it. If you're producing a service that you want to restrict access by like a JOUT token, then you can make this authenticated only, and so only the other consumers with the right authentication token can access it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and deploy this into Cloud Run. And as you can see, we are deploying a new revision, and then it's going to configure the load balancer rules for me. Just like App Engine, everything's fully managed. You don't have to worry about anything. And it sets up the IAM policy. You can also associate your workload directly with a service account, with an IAM account with different credentials. And out comes the Cloud Run URL. And this, then you can go and see your Cloud Run application that's running as a container. Again, there's a slow hit on the cold start. You can specify min and max instances. You can do traffic splitting, just like App Engine. And you also have centralized logging, okay? And in Cloud Run, if you want to specify, your own parameters, if you need a bigger instance, in App Engine, you specify it with app.yaml. In Cloud Run, you can just specify here in the command line. So, if you scroll down to the bottom of this instruction, we can start Cloud Run with 2 CPUs and more memory, and you can set the environment variables directly from the command line rather than using a YAML file. Okay, so that is Cloud Run. Let's see if there are any questions before we do a breakout. Okay, and also before the breakout, I'm going to ask a different question. Yeah, go ahead, Praveen.
No, can you use a YAML file here as well, or?
For Cloud Run in fully managed, you cannot use a YAML file at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Question from Sarath. 2 questions. Can we do Jib with Node.js apps? unfortunately not. You cannot use Jib with the Node.js apps. However, with Node.js app, you can use a build pack. So if I were to go back to the containerization piece, let me see, where is it? Connect. There you go, container images. Yeah, so you can use a build pack, but this is something you have to install. But then you can say pack build, and then you can give it a builder, or you can use our builder, and then this will automatically package up a Node.js application without having a Docker file, which is also nice. Second question, is Cloud Run like Fargate or ECS? Maybe. I don't know Fargate or ECS well, but I think it's pretty similar. One thing about Cloud Run you have to remember is it does scale down to 0, potentially, and it suspends your CPU if there's no request coming. That is probably the biggest hurdle for Java application. So when the request comes in, we'll give you CPU to respond to the request. Once you responded, the CPU is suspended, okay? So that means that there may be some background tasks that you try to do will not execute unless if you have requests constantly coming in, okay? I have a question from Sony. How can I view the images from the console? In the console, if you go to the left-hand side, and you do need to scroll down a little bit, and that's why you always do a search. But here under Tools, you can find Container Registry, and you can see the images. And then we can say hello world, that's my image, and you can see the tags and everything else. So that's where you can see it. Okay, you can delete it too, but I do not recommend doing that right now. Okay, Malcolm, is there a concept of secrets instead of passing environmental variables as clear text? Yes, there's the concept of secrets, absolutely. So one of the things I'm not covering in this particular hello world is secret management. But on the left-hand side, I think, whoa, let me try to find it. Oh boy, where is that secret manager thing? We have so many products, it's really hard to find anything sometimes. So
you actually had it under security at the top.
Security? Let me try that again.
You just passed it again. It's at the top.
Shoot. Top.
Yeah.
Yeah, security.
Under there
and
secrets manager, about 4th from the bottom.
Secret manager. Oh my God, that is not a very good place for secret manager. I have to talk to Seth Vargos about this. But yeah, so we have secret manager, and you can also pass in secrets this way. In fact, with Spring Cloud GCP, we have a really good way to handle secrets. And Cloud Run can handle secrets via invar as well. In case you're wondering what that might look like, I will just show you the site real quick. If you want to use the secret management here, you can go to Cloud Services, here's secret management, and it has all the instructions on how to use secret manager. If you're using Spring Boot application, it's as simple as using a value annotation with the reference to the secret, okay? We're not gonna go into this today, but just so you know, on the site, we have the resource for doing this, okay? Let's see, one more, no more questions? Well, good, whew, I love this. You are all really awesome, and please keep it coming. Another question from Peter. What JDK distribution is used for the Docker container? So if you're using Jib, by default, we're using distrolist. Okay, distrolist container image. And it's a very specialized container image that has almost nothing in it. And the JDK distribution is from the Ubuntu or Debian build, okay? With Jib, you can, in all of these things, you can specify your base image. So whatever that you want to use, you can use. So I know people use Zulu, or like Azul, or they use Adapt OpenJDK. You can specify the base image, whatever that your company needs. So we don't really care in this case when it comes to Cloud Run, okay? All right, so next part is Kubernetes engine. So I do not have, unfortunately, we're not gonna go into Kubernetes in detail, but just remember it's a cluster orchestration tool, right? I think a lot of people knows about Kubernetes now. I just, because of the time, we won't get into this in detail, okay? That being said, if you are using Kubernetes already in your on-premises environment or in another cloud, you'll get to see how you can create a Kubernetes cluster here. And you can follow along too. as always, we need to create a container image, which I already done, and you may have done this already. To create a Kubernetes cluster, first we also have to create encode the API. So here we're going to create enable the APIs. Ooh. A second. My browser is on for some reason, which is not good. But you can follow along in the instructions. And my browser is not responding to me. Hopefully it is responding to you, just not for me. All right, so while I wait, here what we're going to do is to enable the APIs so we can use Kubernetes engine. And then beneath it, this is where we can create a new cluster. And when we create a new cluster, you can give it the number of nodes. So these are the virtual machines you want in the cluster. The control plane, the leader node on Google Cloud, it is actually a managed service. So we don't actually need to provision yet another VM just to run the control plane of Kubernetes. Like in other cloud providers, the control plane is one of the VMs that you provisioned. In Google Cloud, it's a fully managed service, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? Yeah, okay. And so my browser just came back, so that's a good news. So I'm going to go ahead and enable my APIs. And then what this will do in this command line is to create 2 nodes. How big is each node? Is the N1 standard 1 GCE machine. So these are the virtual machines. N1 standard 1 just means 2 CPUs and 2 gigabytes of RAM. There's a whole list of different machine types you can use here. The biggest one will have 416 CPUs and 11 terabytes of RAM. Okay, I do not recommend you using it today. Just please don't do it. Let's stick with the simplest thing here. Okay, so go ahead and create a cluster. While this cluster is creating, I will also show you the UI. So right now it's actually provisioning the VMs behind the scenes, so I can deploy containers into. Okay, if I were to do this on the UI, I can go to Kubernetes engine, and I'll show you a few interesting bits here. All right, so the first thing is you can also create a regional cluster if you want to. Okay, don't do it right now, but you can. Right, so for the demo, we're only provisioning a zonal cluster. That means the nodes are in the same zone. If you need high availability, you can create a regional cluster that will automatically distribute the nodes across different zones. So you have really high availability domains. Okay, you can specify the versions of GKE you want to use. The newest one we can use is 1.16. And we can use just the release channel, so we'll keep on upgrading it for you. For the machines, right, I mentioned that you can specify the number of nodes, but also you can specify the machine type, which is here. Yeah, so here you can specify different series of machines. E2 is the newest generation, okay? And then here you can see the different sizes, right? So like a E2 small is a 2 gigabyte RAM and 2 CPUs. And then if I go all the way up, where are my E2s? Okay, interesting. Maybe it's in the ends. Ooh, that's a Cascade Lake CPUs, and that we can go up to 80. And if I go to N1, I think this is where we can go up to like 400 some cores. Yeah, it's one of these options. All right. The other thing that you can choose potentially is to attach GPU. Okay, so we can actually attach GPUs to our nodes, so you can perform like data science type operations. But just remember, no Bitcoin minings. You will get kicked out. I'll get into trouble. Okay. Don't use GPUs for that. And then there's all these other more detailed configuration you can get into. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so this is compute optimized. I really want to show you this really big CPUs. Maybe I don't have access to it. Well, that's only 160. The biggest we have is 416. So we can go up to 416 cores in a single CPU. All right, in a single VM, sorry. Another thing is that the Kubernetes clusters, for the nodes, we can go up to 5,000 nodes. So we're only doing 2, right? For the demo, we just need 2 nodes. But if you have like a production, like huge workloads for your entire organization, you can go up to 5,000 nodes, and that's a lot. Yeah. Okay, cool. So once you have the cluster provisioned, this is my Kubernetes cluster. As you can see, I don't need to configure any machines. I can do this from the UI or the CLI, and I'm done. And this will also give me the credential automatically. The credentials is downloaded automatically for me. So now I can say kubectl, get pods. So I can see what is actually running in my cluster, and I have nothing running. Okay. Now, the simplest way to deploy something is use the command line here called kubectl create deployment. Okay. Or you can go into the UI if you want to, and you can click on deploy. And this deploy will, you can specify the container image that you want to deploy. And if you click on select, you can also see the container images you already created. Like here we have hello world, and I can select it, and I can deploy it. Okay, so you can do it either way. But sticking with the script, I'm going to do it from the command line, and I can just go ahead and deploy. Okay. And now, if I say kubectl get pods, I can see I have my instance up and running. And that's a container that's being started in my Kubernetes cluster in one of the machines. Okay. If I want to create a load balancer so that external users can use it, this is where you can see the difference, right? Here, I have to physically create a load balancer. In App Engine and Cloud Run, they just automatically created for you. Here, if I want to do HTTPS, if I want to use custom domain, I have to configure all of that myself. In App Engine and Cloud Run, it's all done for you automatically. Okay. And so as we move down the stack, you have to do more. And when the service is being created, initially, what you're going to see is that the external IP is going to be pending. And then I'm going to put this in a watch loop. So eventually, this IP will be assigned. And once it is assigned, then you can actually see the application up and running. A caveat here is that because this is the simplest hello world, this only uses a network load balancer. Okay, so this is a L4 network load balancer. If you want to do something more production ready, I would recommend you to try the more advanced instructions here. You can use the same account if you want to. You can try all of these other things. So for example, for a production ready cluster, you may have to specify a lot more configurations, right? And people might be like, what are those things? Why do we need so much? Well, that's because production is hard, right? In this case, in the production cluster, we can enable something called workload identity. We can enable VPC. We enable network policy. We have like cloud operation monitoring. We got binary authorization, shielded nodes, secure boot, auto repair, auto upgrade, right? That's a production cluster. Okay, so if you want to try more, you can. And then you can also learn about the different way to load balance. So in this case, what we have done is to create a service that's a type of a load balancer. That's pretty much what we have done from the command line. Okay, and that will give us an external IP address like that one. If you want to use HTTP L7 load balancer, for those, it gets a lot more complicated, and that's why we're not going through this in the collab today. But you can try them here. And if you scroll down, we have the concept of called ingress, and this will help you to create a L7 load balancer. Okay, but in the meantime, we're just going to go and use the simplest ones here. I'm going to exit all of this. I'm going to curl and port 8080 on the load balancer, and this will route the traffic to the backend for my application. One thing about Kubernetes is that these instances, you may have to scale it out yourself. There are some auto scaling you can do, but again, you have to configure all of those things yourself, right? It gets complicated. So in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and do a scale, and I can see I have 2 instances running, right? A lot more to manage. And once this is up and running, I can just do a curl, and this will get me to the right backend. Ooh, that's no good. There we go. Okay. All right. So that is Kubernetes engine. Very straightforward, very easy to get started. But for production, you have to manage all the infrastructure yourself. All right. A question so far before I move on? I may have gone a little fast for the Kubernetes, but please let me know if you have any questions. And also another thing is I'm wondering, has everyone been using Kubernetes elsewhere, right? Whether you're using on-prem or on AWS. Many of you is the first time using it on GCP, and I love to hear your feedback. No? No questions? Yeah. I think this one is the harder one where it takes a little bit more time to run through and wait. So I'm hoping that people get a chance to try this. Okay. Question, can Kubernetes be set up without VPC? Not really. When Kubernetes is being set up, it's gonna be running in a VM. So all the VMs will be on VPC. So they're all gonna be on VPC anyways. In fact, if I go and see my Kubernetes engine right now, and you can do this here too, Kubernetes engine. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go to compute. So I'm going to go to compute engine instead and see the VM instances. And you can see like we have 2 nodes for our cluster. That's why we have 2 GKE, sorry, we have 2 virtual machine instances created for us already. And each one of them has an internal IP. This internal IP is already on VPC. And they all have external IP addresses. You can also create private-only Kubernetes cluster so that they don't have external IP addresses. Okay. For a production deployment, I would highly recommend that you go through this other set of instructions in more detail. Again, you can use the same account, and you can try all of these things later. Okay. So I'm just gonna move on real quickly since there's no other questions. The last thing I want to show is the most rudimentary part, which is compute engine. Okay. And this is where you actually have to provision the VM yourself. Okay. And to provision the VM, you can do the UI, or you can just create it from the command line too. So I'm going to create this from the command line. Okay, so imagine if you have a Java EE application, WebLogic, WebSphere that you don't want to containerize, you want to just deploy into a VM. So this is what you do. You can just do gcloud compute instances create, or in the UI, you just go ahead and create a new instance. Like here in the UI, you can do this. But you can see how fast the VM just got created. I mean, that took like less than 10 seconds, I think, right? That is really, really fast. It used to take 60 seconds or more, but nowadays it's like 10 seconds, you get a VM up and running. I'm impressed by myself, sorry. Because I haven't seen this this fast in the past. They've done a lot of optimization to do this. So now we have a VM. What can you do with the VM? Well, you can copy your jar file into the VM, for example, or WAR file or whatever. So you can use gcloud compute SCP to copy stuff into the VM. When this is happening, it will ask you to generate a SSH key. I already done it myself. And so if you were to do this yourself, it will ask you to generate one. It will do this automatically for you. Unlike some other cloud, you probably have to do it manually, which is a lot of work. We just do this automatically. And then you'll use SSH to copy my file into the VM. Okay. Then I can SSH directly into the VM, right? And you can see like all of these are IAM controlled. All of these are controlled based on my logging to this particular project. So you don't have to specify and create dedicated usernames, and just because they are not fully integrated with IAM. In this case, if I can log in to the console, if I have the right permissions, I can log into the machines. The users and the credentials are dynamically provisioned for you. And now I'm SSH into the VM, and here is my hello world jar file. Okay. Oh, Ray, can you move your second browser, the Cloud Shell, a little to the left? Yes, I will. In fact, I might even move it just up a little bit so people can see. How's that? And maybe like that. Okay. So now we have we're in the VM and we have the jar file. And the VM actually may not have JDK installed, and so you know this is where the VM gets complicated. You will have to install the JDK yourself to bootstrap it. Someone's gonna download and install the JDK. Yeah.
Excuse me, Ray. We have 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just let me run through this. Yeah. So go ahead. Yeah. It'll be quick. Yeah.
Quick but good.
Yeah, it'll be quick. if the internet's any faster. All right, here we go. It's unpacking. JDK is big. It's just a lot of work with the JDK. Come on.
Ray, maybe in the interest of time, you wanna go to the cloud functions because I mean,
we do still have functions, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. So one thing about the VMs is that yeah, we can go to there. Is that when you do go through the compute, because the firewall, the networking, none of them set up for you, so you have to do this yourself, right? So for example, the firewall rules, you have to create it yourself, and then you have to specify some tags so that we know which compute instances has certain ports opened, and so on and so forth. Okay. So and then once you have all the ports opened, then you can then connect to it. But if you want to do L4 or L7 load balancers, that's a lot more work to do. Okay. All right. Cool. So we can definitely go to the functions. Now for functions, for this one, we are going to not use the same app. So unfortunately for functions at the moment, we cannot use the same application. If you're in the VM, you gotta exit out and you want to go back to the shell. Okay. And for functions, we're going to just see a very small function that is already written. So I already have this checked out, and I'm going to go straight there. Okay. And I am also going to show you what the function looks like. That being said, you can also, we do have Spring Cloud function support. So if you want to write a function with Spring, you can. I just don't have it in this particular demo right now. But if I were to go to Hello World, the one that we're going to use is, Hello World. The one that we're going to use is the Hello World. Which one? This one? Yeah. And if we go into the functions, here's the HTTP function. And you can see it's really just you implement the HTTP function interface, and then you get a request and response. Okay. There is also the concept of a background function, meaning that you can get triggered based on some other event, like somebody uploaded a file, or somebody sent a pub-sub message, or put a message onto a message bus. Today, we're just going to see how we can write a function that handles the HTTP trigger. Okay, and so you can follow through this instruction. Basically, you can package it. Package. So you can package the function. And then we also have a plugin, so you can run the function locally too. Okay. So for example, if you want to try out your function, we have a plugin you can add to your function build file. If I go back to the pom.xml, there is a function plugin, which is this one. So here's the function maven plugin. If you add this plugin, then what you can do is to say maven function run, and this will run directly in Maven locally on your machine, or in this case in Cloud Shell. Now remember, if I want to see Cloud Shell, I can go to web preview. I can go to that port, and I should be able to see the function response, which is also hello world. Yeah. Now a function is really mean for something that's really like short running. Maybe you need to, maybe it's a part of an ETL job. Maybe you have an entire pipeline that's made of functions. You can chain the functions together if you need to. Or maybe you're just responding to a Git hook or a web hook, or maybe you just want to respond to messages that's coming in from our messaging system. So you can write a function that responds reactively to these events. Okay. To deploy this function, again, you enable the API. And you can deploy the function. Now, for the function deployment, you can deploy a jar file, but that's a little complicated for function. I can link you to the document to do it. But in this case, the function is actually deployed by a build. So what this will do is to send the source code up to in the cloud, cloud build, okay? And then it's going to build in the cloud to produce the function package. The first time that you run it, it might take a few minutes. And also you might actually get an error, and you just have to rerun the build again. Sorry, like you just try to redeploy and you'll get over it. There's a bug in the system right now that is a little suboptimal. But if you retry the deploy, it will go through, okay? And then once the function is deployed, you can find the URL and you can trigger it. If you have a background function, then you can also trigger it by using the command line here called gcloud function call. You can trigger a background function without actually producing the event. You can fake that event if you want to. And similarly, just like Cloud Run, you can specify the different amount of memory and potentially other configurations. But for a function, it's more limited, right? It's more limited than Cloud Run in this case. Okay. When you get a chance, run through these procedures, and you should be able to get the function up and running in a few minutes. Questions, I'm going to answer it, and then Barry, I'm going to hand it back to you to see how you want to move forward, because it is 8:30. Okay, so very quickly for the questions, what is the longest that a function can run? That's a question. That's a good question. I think Cloud Run has a runtime of 1 hour. Function, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure it's more than a minute. Yeah. So I need to check that out. Oh, so Rodrigo is answering. Function execution time is limited by the timeout duration. So it's a minute, but you can maybe extend it up to 9 minutes. So that's good. Nice. Thanks, Rodrigo. That's great. Sarat has a question. Can you compare code warm startup time for the 5 options you mentioned? Ooh, that's a difficult one. The code startup time on the serverless offerings is going to take a little hit, right? Because they're on a small instances. They're not running a VM. They're running a specialized sandbox. So I can tell you, for example, the startup time of the App Engine app, of the Spring Boot app in App Engine in Cloud Run, for our app, it will take about 7 to 10 seconds, okay, roughly. If you give it more CPU, it will start off faster, right? But that is not too bad because you do get this fully provisioned infrastructure in no time. That being said, you can cut down on the cold start time by specifying the minimum instances and adding some checks, like a warm-up checks, okay? So if I were to go back to my initial table here, this is where application lifecycle becomes really important. So for example, for App Engine, you have all these checks so that you can reduce the startup time and the code startup time. In Cloud Run, you can do very similar things with minimum instances, okay? In Kubernetes, that's usually not an issue. Kubernetes has the best support. No one should see any cold start in Kubernetes, okay?
Okay, I'm going to call
yeah, go ahead.
to the questions. If you have more questions for Ray, please feel free to send them to us via Twitter. It's time. Our Zoom is going to turn into a pumpkin in a few minutes, and I don't want that to happen.
Yes.
While Ray is speaking. I want to thank Ray. This is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I want to thank you so much for doing this and for doing a great presentation. All those who attended also, thank you. Great interaction. You've been following along, and it's been wonderful. One more thing before we leave. Upcoming meetings. Please join us on Wednesday, August 26th. Cesar Hernandez will be talking about Jakarta EE. He's a member of the steering committee for Jakarta EE, so he'll be giving a presentation to catch us up on everything that's going on there. And do keep an eye on what we're doing on Wednesday, September 23rd, because that's our 25th anniversary meeting, and it's going to be great. Anyway, thank you so much for attending, everybody, tonight. We'll see you soon.